Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Halal Times YouTube channel. Today we are excited to bring you another episode from the Halal Times, and the topic which we're going to discuss today is basically related with a financial model which is being adopted by a lot of consumers. It's becoming very popular, and especially for the last couple of years we have covered it quite a few times, and I hope some of you may find at least some relevance to what we'll be going to discuss today. So let's start the topic. And the topic which we're going to discuss basically is related with a business model which is called buy now, pay later. It's a service which is being adopted by a lot of companies in different parts of the world, not necessarily in the West only, but in many Muslim majority countries as well. Of course, Saudi Arabia is one of them, and there are quite a few companies, to my understanding, operating in other countries of the Middle East as well. So what we're going to discuss is basically related with this business model, and the topic of today's discussion which we're going to have is what are the challenges of using buy now, pay later service. And I hope today's episode will help you make informed decision whether you want to go for buy now, pay later business option or not. So to give you a detailed understanding of what buy now, pay later model is, basically buy now, pay later model is a type of payment option that allows consumers to purchase goods and services and pay for them at a later date, often with no upfront payment or interest charges if the payment is made on time. I have used the word on time, and you got to keep in mind. And of course we're going to continue the discussion, and making payment on time is very important. BNPL options can be offered by retailers, financing companies, or other organizations in the financial world. To use a BNPL option, the consumer simply selects it as their payment method at checkout. They may be required to provide some personal and financial information such as their name, address, and credit or debit card details. Once the purchase is complete, the consumer can choose to pay the full amount due at a later date, often within a few weeks or months, or make partial payments over a period of time. This BNPL model is often called 1 in 4 model as well, as consumers generally can pay in 4 installments in this particular business model. BNPL options can be convenient for consumers who want to make a purchase but do not have the funds available at the time of purchase. The model can also be attractive because they often come with no interest charges, at least for a certain period of time. Before the payment is due, of course, you don't have to pay any interest rates. However, it's important for consumers to understand the terms and conditions of any BNPL options before using it, as there may be some fee or unintended consequences for non-payment on time. So this is the thing which is coming into the discussion which we're going to cover. So what are the fees and charges? I think, to my understanding, we need to discuss it in detail so that you get a better understanding of how this business model works and whether it's for you or not. And you also got to have a complete, very realistic understanding of your own financial situations, so you are in a better position to make the decision whether you want to go for this business model, you want to opt for it or not. So fee and charges, as far as this particular category is concerned, one potential downside of using a buy now pay later option is the potential for fees and charges. BNPL providers charge late payment fees if you do not pay your bill on time. These fees can be a flat rate or a percentage of the total amount due. In addition to late payment fees, some BNPL providers may charge other fees for non-payment, such as returned payment fees or account closure fees. These fees can add up quickly, especially if you are unable to make your payments on time. So watch out for this. Let's try to discuss this issue with a real world example. For example, let's say you make a purchase using a BNPL option and the total amount due on you is $100. If you charge a $10 late payment fee, every time you miss a payment, and you miss 3 times, the total amount of late fees you would owe to the company would be $30. If you're also charged a $25 returned payment fee, your total fee would be $55. And this is in addition to the original amount you owed of $100. So the total will be $155. So it means you will have to pay $155 instead of just $100. That's horrific. And of course, personally speaking, I would not like to go for this business model. It's not for me. Even if it is halal, I don't want to go for this. But of course, at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision, your own decision, whether you want to go for it, whether you want to purchase different items on by opting this model or not. Of course, I'm nobody to make a decision for you. You are the one to decide how things should go as far as your financial situation is concerned. And sometimes it's possible that it may become necessary, that it's a very, very important item for you and you want to get it now instead of tomorrow. So in that case, maybe you will have to go for this. But try to avoid this kind of business situation, this kind of financial engagement as much as you can. So, it's important to carefully read and understand the terms and conditions of any BNPL option you are considering, or as well as your own financial situation, of course, as well, to ensure that you will be able to make the required payments on time and avoid unnecessary fees. It does not just affect you in terms of late fees or any other fees or interest rate. It also impacts your financial situation in the future as well. The next challenge which we generally speaking face is credit score impact. Another potential downside of using a buy now pay later model is the impact it can have on your credit score. Your credit rating is a numerical representation of your credit worthiness based on information in your credit report. It's used by lenders, landlords, and others to evaluate your credit worthiness and ability to pay back loans or debts on time. If you do not make your BNPL payments on time, it can negatively impact your credit score. Late payments are generally reported to credit bureaus, which can then lower your credit score. The more late payments you have, the more your credit score can be impacted negatively. And of course, as you know, a low credit score can have consequences in many areas of your financial life. And we have seen a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances who have been facing just because of this very reason. They could not make the payments on time, and their credit rating has become zero or even negative. It can make it more difficult to get approved for loans, credit cards, or even a mortgage if you don't pay on time. It can also result in higher interest rates, and of course, which is completely forbidden in Islam, and of course fees as well on any credit you are approved for. This can end up costing you more money in the long run. So watch out. It's also important to make sure you're able to pay your BNPL bill on time to avoid damaging your credit score. If you're having difficulty making your payments, it may be a good idea to contact your BNPL provider to see if they can work with you to come up with a payment plan or alternative arrangements. Another drawback which we have observed as far as this buy now pay later business model is concerned is that you are limited to certain merchants. Not all the merchants, not all the companies, manufacturers, they offer this business model. They're often only available at certain merchants. This business model is not available everywhere. While more and more retailers are offering BNPL options, it's still not available at all merchants, as we mentioned. For example, some major retailers that offer BNPL options include Amazon, Best Buy, Macy's, Target, and so many other companies as well, of course. However, if you want to make a purchase at a smaller independent retailer or a merchant that does not offer BNPL options, you may not be able to use this payment method. This can be inconvenient if you prefer to use BNPL for all of your purchases, or if you do not have another payment method available at the time of purchasing. Another challenge which we have faced due to this very business model is basically there is an increased temptation to overspend. This is something very important. Once you go for this option, there is an increased temptation to overspend because BNPL allows you to make a purchase without having to pay for it upfront. It can be easier to make impulsive or unnecessary purchases in this way. The convenience of BNPL can make it tempting to buy items that you may not have otherwise, especially if you are under financial stress or do not have the funds available to make the purchase in question. This can lead to overspending and financial difficulties down the road. So be careful as to what you're going to purchase. If you are unable to pay your BNPL bill on time, you may be charged late fees or other fees as mentioned earlier, which can add up quickly. This can put you in a difficult financial situation and make it harder to pay off your debts. It's also important to be mindful of your spending habits and only use BNPL for necessary purchases that you can afford to pay off. Carefully consider the terms and conditions of any BNPL option before using it and make sure you will be able to make the required payments on time. The word on time is very important. It's also a good idea to have a budget in place to help you manage your finances and avoid overspending. Another challenge which we have faced from the BNPL model is basically limited payment options. They don't offer sufficient number of payment options that may be available with certain providers. Only limited options are available with certain providers. While some BNPL providers allow you to pay using a variety of methods such as debit or credit cards, others may only allow you to pay using the method they provide. So every organization, every BNPL provider could be different. So please have a detailed understanding of how you're going to make the payment and what are the other terms and conditions. Only then you should make any decision in this regard. For example, some BNPL providers may only allow you to pay using a direct debit from your bank account or a payment app. This can be inconvenient if you prefer to use a different payment method such as credit card, or if you do not have access to a bank account or a payment app. It's important to carefully read the terms and conditions of any BNPL option you're considering and make sure you're comfortable with the available payment methods. If you have a preferred payment method that you do not want to give up, it may be a good idea to look for a BNPL option that allows you to use it, right? So don't become a slave to the BNPL model. Don't become a slave to the financial company which is offering seemingly very good option as far as BNP model is concerned, but then of course they can make havoc in your life. They can create a lot of financial troubles for you, and of course at the end of the day you will be responsible for whatever decision you make today. So guys and gals, buy now, pay later, as we mentioned, BNPL model can be a convenient payment method for consumers, but it's important to carefully consider the terms and conditions before using them. BNPL options may come with fees and charges for late or non-payment, which can add up quickly, and late payments can also negatively impact your credit rating, making it harder to get approval for loans or credit cards in the future, even for very genuine reasons as well. So you gotta be careful while using this model to make payments. BNPL options may also be limited to certain merchants, which can be inconvenient if you want to use them for all of your purchases. The convenience of BNPL can also lead to overspending and financial difficulties. And finally, some BNPL providers may have limited payment options, which can be inconvenient if you prefer to use a different method. To find the best BNPL options for your needs, It's important to carefully read and understand the terms and conditions, including any fees or charges that may apply. It's also a good idea to shop around and compare different BNPL options to find the one that works best for you. Consider your own financial situation and make sure you'll be able to make the required payments on time. Finally, be mindful of your spending habits and only use BNPL for necessary purchases that you can afford to pay off on time at a certain date. So, guys and gals, thank you so much for your time. It was nice talking to you. And as we have mentioned again and again in today's episode, that you have to make a very informed decision before you go for this business model. Personally speaking, we don't like this business model. Of course, we are not giving any fatwa, but maybe it's not for me, it's not for us. So please think about it seriously before you make any decision. And inshallah, in the next episode, we'll bring up another topic which will be important, of course, for a lot of people, a lot of Muslims. So inshallah, I hope to be able to speak with you very soon. So till then, salam alaikum.